On this Ask Sam, we're going to be talking about biphasic sleep. This may seem like an odd topic for this channel, and it may be something you've never thought about and even never occurred to you to kind of think about, but modern research is starting to think more and more about the concept of biphasic sleep. And what is biphasic sleep? Basically, this is pretty simple. We currently live in a world that assumes we're going to participate in monophasic sleep. That means we go to bed at a certain time, let's say 11 p.m. You're going to sleep through the night and get up in the morning, roughly 8 hours later, 7 a.m. No breaks in between. You sleep the whole time. Sure, you might get up and go to the bathroom, but basically, you're going to sleep the whole way through. This solid night's sleep, the full 8 hours of sleep, this is monophasic sleep, and the modern world almost universally assumes that this is how we will sleep. And what's odd is it's also how it assumes we should sleep. Now, we don't know a lot about sleep patterns in the old days, meaning about more than 300 years ago. There just wasn't a lot of research done on it. It's not the kind of thing that people recorded. Mostly, we believe, because everyone more or less slept the same. They slept in natural patterns that just arose naturally. Because everyone did it and had relatively minor variation, people didn't think to sit down and talk about it and write down what was happening. But from research now, more and more we're beginning to find that it looks like throughout human history what was used primarily is biphasic sleep. And there's lots of reasons why this is true, but first we should say what it is. Essentially, biphasic sleep means that you go to bed probably on the early side, sleep for probably about 4 hours, roughly half your night's sleep. Then you get up and have some level of activities that go on, possibly for 30 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe 3 or 4 hours, and then you go to sleep again for another 4 hours, basically splitting your night into two groups. It may have been slightly longer and slightly shorter. We don't really know, and probably this varied a lot between people. Remember, mostly this happened in the era before alarm clocks and before watches and all those things. Not necessarily watches, those have been around for quite some time, and so people weren't necessarily tracking too closely their sleep. They were simply getting up when it made sense and going back to bed when they were tired. The pattern of biphasic sleep probably arose organically. It's not hard to figure out why this might happen. If we go to pre-industrial revolution, when there were not, you need candles for light or maybe a lamp, there was not electric lights everywhere. The ability to light up your house was impractical, if possible at all. During that era, once the sun went down, and remember, on average, the sun would go down at 6 o'clock worldwide. So half your day would be in the dark. 12 hours. Now, some places that varies, depending on your hemisphere and the time of year and how far north or south you are. So it's going to be a lot of difference here, not just by region, but by time of the year and everything. But on average, 12 hours of darkness, during which it was very hard to do anything. So naturally, people started going to bed, or just always went to bed early when it got dark, roughly 6 o'clock. Once you got to 6:30 and there was no light, there wasn't a lot of point to staying up. What were you going to do? Maybe someone needed to stay up and watch for the lions to attack, but most people needed to get sleep, and you might as well do it as soon as it gets dark because you're done doing whatever you're going to do. The world was a different place. But humans don't need 12 hours of sleep. That would be obsessive. So what did we do? The natural thing, sleep until you weren't tired anymore, get up, and then there are activities that make sense in the middle of the night. Eating, going to the bathroom, getting some more water. It was a great way to stay hydrated. We're just assuming that that's what happened, but it's pretty safe to assume that and humans now in monophasic sleep suffer these problems. You wake up having to go to the bathroom really badly. A lot of people can't make it through the night because we're not meant to make it through the night. You're really thirsty by morning. Well, those are all things that would have been solved. And quite possibly people were having meals commonly in the middle of the night. We all know the midnight snack. It could have been an actual midnight meal, or maybe it was just a snack. Maybe some people didn't do it at all. We don't really know. What we do know is that biphasic sleep was incredibly common. It was popular. It was so popular that people just assumed it was going to happen. We also know, and this is where this channel takes some interest in it, it was very common for people during their in-between time, their intermission between their sleeps, to be the time that they have sex. This makes sense for lots of reasons. If your first just going to bed and it's been a long day, you're probably tired. We all know how it is. That's not really the best time to have sex. It may be convenient for us because we want to do it when it's kind of dark and we're in bed, and in the morning we wake up at different times. It's the time we can coordinate it. So there's reasons why when going to bed is associated with sex today. But traditionally, biphasic sleep may have made it make a lot more sense to get some rest, be fresh, energetic, get that water, maybe have a snack, and then have sex in the middle of the night when it's completely dark and there's really very little else that you can do. It's a really practical time for it when you can put in some time and really have fun, and you're not wasting time that you could be using for something else, and you don't have to coordinate getting up at a certain time or doing it when you're both tired and wish you could go to bed or whatever. It was the perfect use of that time, and this may be why we associate so many things with sex and sleep, such as, why do people associate sex with being in the dark? We don't need to be in the dark to have sex, and certainly not everyone wants to be, but there's a certain association, a strong one, and lots of people like to be in the dark, either a little bit or a lot during sex. This would explain why, because for most likely for thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands of years, humans were probably having sex in the dark the majority of the time, at least when they were having sex with a long-term partner, someone that they were sleeping with or near for protection or familial proximity. It probably explains a lot of other human behaviors, why we get hungry in the middle of the night, why we want to go to the bathroom in the night, why we're thirsty in the middle of the night, and it may explain why it is so common for people to want, even if they don't get to, nap in the middle of the afternoon now, because we're looking for that biphasic pattern that's missing in our modern lives. We do know that the monophasic sleep was promoted by the Industrial Revolution, partially through technology. Yes, we had light bulbs and it changed the way we needed to react to the world, but also because businesses, because of the way they worked, needed people or wanted people to all show up at the same time, work long hours during the time that there's daylight, and sleep at a very specific time that wasn't as long as they used to, and get them back to work so they could work more. The Industrial Revolution did a lot to change our patterns and our perceptions of the world, and sleep is one of them, a big one. So biphasic sleep is interesting to think about, but it's more than just interesting to think about. It's something that you may want to consider whether or not it makes sense for you. Maybe you should be investigating biphasic sleep as a way to stay healthier or to be able to have sex at a time that makes more sense for you. The important thing is not that you practice monophasic sleep or biphasic sleep or something crazy like triphasic sleep. It's not the point. The point is we often associate rules with sleeping and feel that we have to sleep in certain ways. We don't. You can find a way to sleep that makes sense for you. You can find a way to have sex that makes sense for you. You can have sex in the middle of the night, which feels like you're breaking some kind of crazy societal rule, and you're definitely breaking the norms, and you're undermining the man and the Industrial Revolution. But that's okay, because it's about what makes sense for you, and of course your partners, the people involved in your activities, and finding the right balance that makes sense for you. And a lot of people have never thought about attempting biphasic sleep. It might be something you really enjoy and connect with. Thanks for joining me here on Ask Sam. Remember to like, subscribe, ask your questions, get in down there, and ask away. I'll see you all with the next question.